smiles returning to the faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Little darling, I feel the ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. It's alright. It's alright. Sun, 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 here it comes. Don't you know we're gonna walk in the sun, 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 here it comes. Oh, we're going out in the sun, 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 here it comes. Party, party, party in the sun, 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 here it comes. Ooh, sun, 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 here it comes. Oh, here comes the sun, yeah. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, 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 here it comes. Here it comes, all right. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Jubilee community. Wow, Daniel, the sun coming through on that video is so beautiful.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, clearly it is another amazing and beautiful day to be living and growing and evolving in the Blue Ridge Mountains or wherever so many of us are coming from. Laura is off today, and we're so thrilled to have Paula Stone Williams be with us today, as well as our regular group of ministers and some amazing guests. Just as weekly reminder that Jubilee is a community of love and service and growth. And we are doing our best in these times of COVID to come together and keep the main thing the main thing. So I really invite you all to turn to people on your screen and look them in the eyes and say hi, and write in the chat some things that you're bringing to the space today, any prayers or celebrations or things that you want the community to celebrate with you or hold with you. The book of Proverbs says that divine wisdom, chokmah, which is a feminine word, exists before the world was made. It suggests that all of creation is preceded by and grounded in wisdom, that every flower and tree that grows, every mountain and magma, every star and planet, every quasar and black hole, every creature, even the ones sitting next to you, the ones you love and the ones that challenge you, that they are all grounded in Lady Wisdom. And that's what we're celebrating today, wisdom, on this day of Epiphany, the day that three mystics from the East followed a star and a still small voice within to bless and recognize another great mystic, one who has lit up the world for 2,000 years with his teachings of love and acceptance, with a deep and abiding wisdom. So let us all take a deep breath and connect to that wisdom that lives in each of us and bring ourselves into this space and awake our souls. Daniel, over to you.
and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leaning, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light.
Oh, thank you for that, Daniel. I remember as a young child and, being raised in these mountains. And one of the ways I learned how to speak English was through singing Christmas carols. And that song in particular reminds me of that process in my life. And kind of like what we're talking about today, the epiphanies that we have, those aha moments that, especially in this time of darkness or this time of solstice in winter, where dominant is the darkness. And it is a time to really be able to, if we have that inner light within us already burning, then we have the opportunity to shed light upon the darkness that comes from within. Whether that's however you want to look at the future or how you're looking at your life and the lessons that we learned. So with that, would like to honor the directions with thank you to the spirits of the East. We thank you for the awakening. We thank you for the rising sun, and we thank you for the opportunities to receive light into our hearts and our spirits. We thank you, ancestors of the East and of the light and of the sun, for helping us to nurture the path. Thank you for your warmth and your love and your guidance. And we ask you to continue to show yourself and be present with us each and every breath. And in a good way, we offer this to you. And to the spirits of the South, to all the living beings of the Water Nation, we thank you. We thank you for all that you give to us to quench our thirst for the mystery of life. We thank you for the hope or the renewed hope or the newfound hope that we're learning to embrace. Help us to ingest this fluid of knowledge and hope and guidance and love and compassion so that it might strengthen us, so that we might live the life that has been prayed for us by our ancestors. Thank you. Come and be with us in this way, in a good way. And to the ancestors of the West, to all of those that have gone before, we honor you. We come in a good way and know that we are the children of your children and the grandchildren of the generations that you come from. Thank you for all that you have prayed and all that you have sang your songs and told your stories and lived your life so that we might have a light at the end of the path that is our future. Thank you for all that has been given so that we might know this day of community, life, and love, and awakeness. In a good way, we thank you and honor you. And to the North, to all the beings of the Wind Nation, thank you. Thank you for your voice. Thank you for your wisdom that echoes through the wind from the generations that have come from the beginning of time. Thank you for the songs and the stories and the hopes and the dreams that have been carried to us. Thank you for the very air that we breathe, and help us to ingest every breath with that hope and that love and that desire for what comes next in our greatness as people on this earth. We thank you for your breath, and we thank you for your presence in our lives. And lift us up to the places that only love knows to go. In a good way, we invite you. And to all the ancestors of all the universe, we thank you for sparkling in the night sky. We thank you for your presence, ever presence in our lives. In a good way, we thank you and we honor you for your light in our life and for awakening us to those aha moments so that we can continue to journey to the future as one tribe of this earth in a good way. I hope.
We know this one, Jubilance. If you don't know it, You will by the end of this, because it's very simple. Some of the African words might be a little bit hard to understand, but sing it anyway, because it's not about the words. We sing. Sia hamba kukanaya quinkos. 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 We are walking in the light of the light. We are walking in the light of God. We are walking in the light of God. We are walking in the light of God. We are walking, we are walking, we are walking in the light of the Lord. We are walking, we are walking, we are walking in the light of God. Let's do the Sia Hamba again. And sing it so that it touches the walls and the people and the animals around you and down in your heart, the hungry parts. Sia hamba kukanaya quinkos. 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 Oh yeah. So I am really excited in this moment to hear what this really precious person has to share with us. Terry has been a jubilant for longer than I have, and she is a real treasure in so many different kinds of ways. And she has a gift of conversational prose, as she described it today. So Terry, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, and hello, everyone. I'm dedicating this to Howard Hanger. You saw it, right? If you didn't see it, surely you saw photos or you heard about it. We called it the Christmas star, and it shone brightest on the longest night of the year. Well, it wasn't actually a star. Science tells us it is a rare planetary conjunction, the alignment of Saturn and Jupiter, the two biggest worlds in our solar system. The last time these two planets appeared this close together in a dark sky was 800 years ago. 800 years. Officially 1226. Science calls it the Great Conjunction. If you know me, you know I'm all about science. I'm fascinated by the physics and math that can predict precisely when the planets will pass each other. For example, the next great conjunction visible in a dark sky will be in 2080. Science can explain this, and I wholeheartedly believe in the knowledge behind it. I also believe in holy miracles. in a heavenly blessing that illuminates us. The hopes and fears of all the years. We are afraid. We are wandering, lost, grieving, crying out, furious and frustrated. We are tired and broken, divided, and so very sad. We are killing each other. We are being murdered. We don't know what to do, who to trust. We've stopped speaking, stopped dancing, stopped caring. We're helpless, hopeless, alone, and we are dying. Our planet, too, is suffering because of our greed and ignorance. It is burning, flooding, quaking, melting, and blowing away. Extinctions are happening at such a rapid pace that we are likely losing life forms before we even know they exist. We have lost our way. Star of wonder, star of night, guide us to thy perfect light. What if on solstice evening in the year 2020, we received a holy miracle just when we needed it most? And what if on that night, two wise and enormous planets came together to shine hope on their beloved planetary sister and all her inhabitants? We were given a moment to imagine everyone around our entire globe stopping, looking up, and remembering why we are here. Yet in thy dark street shine the everlasting light. Be not afraid, for we are all part of that starlight, and we travel together on this spinning blue jewel of a planet. We will hold holy hope in our hearts. We will hold hands again. We will hold on to each other. And we will seek truth, justice, and divine love. Oh, yeah.
Bless you, Terry. I just want those words to resonate as we enter our prayer time. There's not much more to say other than that. We will. We will. And right now in this way we are. We are holding hands. We in this circle of love are our own conjunction, our own community, our own special light. Epiphany from the Greek, manifestation, striking appearance, revelation. As Terry said, Jupiter and Saturn gave us a striking appearance that held us all in wonder. What gifts will come from that wonder in the year ahead. May those gifts be planted in the dreams that we pray for now. So in your spaces, grab your bowls, your bells, your candles, or each other's hands or paws. You may chat with friends in the chat window. Warren is at the Western Wall, and he is recording your prayers as well and lighting candles. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder who you are. How I wonder what you will be in the days and weeks and months ahead. Shine your heavenly light upon us. Breathe deeply. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. So chat people up, say hey, share a little of your heart with people. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Prepare ye the way of the light. 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 So Terry, glad you're here and have something to share with us from the singers. Love your work that you're doing with them. It's really so great to hear those harmonies.
Well, thank you, Daniel. We have a trio from singers this morning. We have Susie, Aaron, and myself singing the Roaches version of Star of Wonder.
Star of wonder in the heavens, wonder what you want of me. Should I follow you Star of wonder, star of wonder. I am just a lonely shepherd, watching from a distant hill. Why do you appear to me? Star of wonder, if you will. In the morning they'll come looking for the shepherd on the hill. What would make her leave her flock? Then surely she must love them still. Star of wonder in the heavens, are you just a shining star, or should I follow you tonight? Star of wonder, star of wonder, shining bright.
Wow, that was just exquisite. Thank you, Terry. And Aaron and Susie. You guys rock. That's awesome. You do a great Roaches imitation. That's pretty impressive. That's good.
Yeah, well, we're wanting to do this in person at some point. So,
well, you could take it on the road, or you can take it on the net. You could just take that. You can take it and go with it. Yeah, that's good stuff. Thanks so much. So, I don't have a bell, Howard. I've never been in this situation before. I don't know. I don't have a bell. Let's see here. So here are these ancient words. On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in a boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we're perishing?" He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. And he said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" This is ancient wisdom and holy word. Thanks be to all that is wise and holy. All creation is wisdom and holy word. All creation sings of wisdom and God. Hallelujah.
Well, Jubilee, if the first Sunday of 2021 stirs in you any hope for new beginnings, Paula Williams is the perfect speaker for today, because Paula knows a little bit about new beginnings. Paula and I go a long ways back. For several decades, we were involved in the same evangelically minded denomination. Paula was a founder and CEO of a large religious nonprofit, the editor and contributor for the denomination's primary journal, and one of the most sought after preacher, teacher, leaders across the country, and including in national conferences. But at that time, she was living as Paul, not Paula. But 8 years ago, with courage and personal integrity that I cannot fathom, Paul publicly acknowledged what he'd known since a child. She was a woman. Overnight, Paula was fired from her jobs, excommunicated from our denomination that had no formal mechanism for doing so, and divorced by most of her friends. Nevertheless, she persisted. She chose truth, she chose life, and a boatload of heartaches. From that new beginning, Paula Stone Williams has become an internationally known speaker on issues of gender equity, LGBTQ advocacy, and religious tolerance. She's been featured in the New York Times, New York Post, NPR, and bunches of other places. And her TED Talks have had over 6 million views. She's also currently a pastor at the Left Hand Church in Longmont, Colorado, and a pastoral counselor. She's with us live today from Colorado. Paula, welcome and thank you.
It's so good to be with all of you, and thank you so much, Michael. It's just so good to be with all of you today. So it's the 4th chapter of the Gospel of Mark. Jesus has just completed 8 mini parables, and he's ready to head back across the Sea of Galilee. The disciples get in the boat. Jesus gets in the back of the boat. They head across the Sea of Galilee, and a terrible storm kicks up just like that, which, as I understand it, is actually not all that unusual on the Sea of Galilee. Only this storm was worse than usual. The waves are crashing against the boat. The wind is whistling through the boat. The disciples thought, well, this is it. Here we are in the Sea of Galilee, and we're going to die. And they look at the back of the boat, and there is Jesus, sound asleep. Don't you just hate it when someone has the capacity to be completely calm in the midst of what you are personally convinced are dire circumstances? So a number of years ago, I was with a friend of mine, and we were on our kayaks headed across the coast of Long Island, New York, where we lived at the time, on the Great South Bay. We were going to one of our favorite places on the other side, this quiet inlet. And as we were still pretty far out in the water, we got caught by a trailing wave that flipped both of our kayaks over. Our kayaks were very, very stable, so there's no way we could flip them back up while remaining in the kayak, so the only thing we could do was a wet exit. That means you pull up on the spray skirt and you push yourself out of the kayak, pretty much like taking off a pair of pants, and you're doing all of this while you're upside down under the water. And did I mention it was November? No, it was pretty warm outside, probably 70 degrees, but it was November in New York. That water was so cold. And I was absolutely terrified, sure we were going to die right there in the middle of the Great South Bay. And I'm flapping my arms, and I turned over to my friend, who was just as calm can be. My life is flashing before my eyes. I'm ready to do everything I can, flapping my arms, trying to get back to shore, when my friend said, Paula, stand up. Yeah, the water was about 4 feet deep. Feeling kind of foolish, we just pulled our boats back to the shore. That's what's going on here. The disciples are absolutely terrified for their lives. Jesus is sound asleep in the back of the boat. They wake him up, not because they think he can really do anything, but because they're desperate for any kind of help at this point. And he says, "Oh, you of little faith." And then turning to the storm, he speaks just 3 words. He says, "Quiet, be still." Now, I can say that all day long to my 5 granddaughters, and nothing ever happens. Jesus says it one time to the storm, and the storm just stopped. Imagine that. You're out there in the Sea of Galilee. The storm is raging. You're sure you're going to die. Jesus speaks just 3 words, and the storm stops. Now, at this point, I imagine the disciples were probably feeling a little foolish for having awakened Jesus in the first place, but very quickly it occurs to them, if at first they were terrified of the storm, now they've found a second and far more compelling reason to be terrified. Now they're terrified of this man, Jesus. Who is this man that with a few simple words, he can calm a raging storm? I know how they felt about Jesus. They were drawn to him, frightened of him, all at the same time. C.S. Lewis had an understanding of these kinds of things in his Chronicles of Narnia series of books. Aslan the lion is the hero of the books, and the children are very taken by Aslan because he's their savior. At the same time, they're rather frightened of Aslan because he is a lion, And if he wanted to, he could tear them limb from limb. And Lewis was fond of saying throughout all 7 books that Aslan was not a safe lion, you know. And so now the disciples were discovering that Jesus was not a safe Lord. He brought them hope, the end of the storm that they thought would end their lives. But that hope came with terror to which they had to say yes. The same thing happened to Mary. The angel comes unexpectedly. Behold, the Lord is with you. You are highly favored by God. She was troubled by those words from Gabriel, as any of us would be, because it's not the kind of love to which we are accustomed. We're accustomed to love that is conditional. I love you as long as you love me. I love you as long as you behave the way I want you to behave, as long as you believe what I want you to believe. The truth is, she realizes by the time Gabriel is done, more than likely, he could have brought that greeting to anyone in Nazareth, because every single person in the village was highly favored by God. Every single person in that village had the Lord with them, as it is for us today. The angel tells her what's going to happen. And so hope for her, just like for the disciples in the back in that boat, comes from the outside. Did you ever notice that hope usually comes from the outside? Hope doesn't come from within the disciples. It comes from Jesus, the one with the ability to calm the storm. Hope comes in the message brought by the angel Gabriel. Hope comes from the outside, but yes, comes from within. Mary has to say yes, and she does. She says, "May it be to me as you have said." Beautiful words. Hope comes from the outside, but yes comes from within. And then so does perseverance. So after the Magi have come, she has to persevere through being a refugee in Egypt, and then persevere through the crucifixion of Jesus. And even after his resurrection, she's only with him for 40 more days before he's gone again. She has to persevere. Hope, which generally comes from the outside, plus yes, which always comes from the inside, plus perseverance, which also comes from the inside, joined together to create one's destiny. That's right. Hope plus yes plus perseverance equals destiny. I knew from the time I was 3 or 4 years of age, I was transgender. In my naivete, I thought I got to choose. I thought a gender fairy would arrive and say, okay, what's it going to be? But alas, no gender fairy arrived. So I just lived my life. I didn't hate being a boy. I just knew I wasn't one. Went to college, got married, had kids, built a career. But the call toward authenticity has all the subtlety of a smoke alarm. And eventually decisions have to be made. And so I came out as transgender and promptly lost every single one of my jobs. I'd never had a bad review. I lost every single job. In all 50 states, you cannot be fired for being transgender. But in all 50, you can be fired if you're transgender and you work for a religious corporation. Good to know. It's not easy being a transgender woman. I earned more money in my last 2 months as Paul than I earned in the next 48 months as Paula. But then hope came from the outside. I was asked to speak for one of the largest TEDx events in the world, TEDx Mile High in Denver. I would be speaking to 5,000 people, and then it would go online on YouTube. I was absolutely terrified. But it went well. That particular TED Talk has had over 4 million views, which then resulted in being invited to the big TED stage where I spoke with my son. Then I spoke again at the TED Summit in Edinburgh, Scotland. I spoke again last year at TEDx Mile High. Altogether, those have had well over 6 million views. Out of that, I ended up with a contract to write a memoir for Simon & Schuster. That'll be out this coming June. It's called As a Woman: What I Learned About Power, Sex, and the Patriarchy After I Transitioned. And then right now, they're actually making a feature film about my life in Hollywood. All those things are kind of embarrassing to me. Who am I? I mean, why would I have that kind of an opportunity to speak in these influential locations? And why would I get a chance to write a memoir for Simon & Schuster or to have a film made about my life? I mean, really, hope generally comes from the outside. But I had to say yes. That comes from within. I was terrified of doing that first TED Talk. I was on edit 16 before I had a talk that was acceptable to the folks at TED. They're pretty demanding in what they want. And I'd spoken to thousands as a man, but I'd never spoken to 5,000 people as a woman. And then when I spoke for the TED Summit, I was talking to 100 other TED speakers, some of the best speakers in the world. It was terrifying. But I said yes. Writing a memoir is not for the faint of heart, but I said yes. Hope, which comes from the outside, plus yes, which comes from within, plus perseverance, creates one's destiny. Joseph Campbell calls it the hero's journey. It's common to every culture, every age, every language, every ethnicity group. An ordinary citizen is called onto an extraordinary journey onto the road of trials. Initially, we reject that call because, hey, it's the road of trials. No one willingly goes onto the road of trials. But now we're miserable because we know we've been called. And then a spiritual guide comes into our lives, a Yoda, if you will, that gives us the courage to answer that call onto the road of trials. And sure enough, we get there and it's a road of trials. And then things get worse. We find ourselves in a deep, dark cave where the true way is wholly lost. What John of the Cross called the dark night of the soul. What Dante was talking about at the beginning of the Commedia, when he said, in the middle of the road of my life, I awoke in a dark wood where the true way was wholly lost. But we persevere through that darkness, and finally we see the light at the end of the tunnel. And this time, unlike previous times, it's not an oncoming train. And we find ourselves back onto the ordinary road of trials, which now seems like nothing compared to what we've been through. And then finally, we get to the prize of great price, to the Holy Grail. Even then, our journey's not over, because now we still have the responsibility to take that gift and bring it back and give it as an offering to those from whom we have departed. Now, here's the thing. Every single human being is called onto the hero's journey. At some point or another in our lives, for many of us more than once, we're called onto the hero's journey. The question is not whether you're called. The question is, will you see those two stars aligning in the sky? And will you follow them? Will you answer the call onto the hero's journey? Will you step onto the road of trials and into the deep, dark cave? How do you know when you've been called? For the world's deep hunger meets your deep gladness. That's where you're called. That's Frederick Buechner's language. You're called where the world's deep hunger meets your deep gladness. How do you identify that call? Well, let me ask you a question. What is the one thing you do that you love so much you lose track of time when you're doing it? What is that one thing? That's the first step of knowing where you've been called. If what you're called to doesn't terrify you, it's not your call. It's somebody else's call. What you're called to will always frighten you. It will always call you beyond yourself, but it also will be within the realm of that which you love to do. So what is it you love to do that you love it so much you lose track of time? That's the first half of knowing your call. The second half is, are you affirmed in that? Do people say to you, that's one of the greatest gifts you have? And I mean, not just mom and dad or your spouse. Do most people say that to you? That's how you know where you're called, where the world's deep hunger meets your deep gladness, where you find work that you love so much that you lose track of time doing it, where people affirm you in that work, and where, yes, you are terrified to say yes because you're not sure you've got what it takes to step forward and say yes and persevere. But we've all been called. The question isn't whether or not you've been called onto the hero's journey. The question is, how do you find the courage to say yes? I'll end with a poem from Mary Oliver, The Journey. One day you knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried, mend my life, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, as you left their voices behind, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, a new voice, a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. Will you pray with me? God, thank you for creating us in your image with the capacity to step beyond our fear and say yes when hope comes calling, to persevere and to be able to share the gifts you've given us, to go on to the hero's journey, to find the Holy Grail and bring it back and give it as our offering, given with gratitude to those from whom we have departed. Thank you, God, for giving us our wonderful personalities, and give us the courage to say yes. For this is our prayer, and we pray it in the name of Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Paula. It was an incredibly inspiring message. I'm listening for that yes. Such a deep calling. Deep practice. So what are we saying yes to as a community? We're saying yes to lots of things. We had a really great holiday season despite all the rain and weather. As we mentioned before, we supported 50 foster kids with gifts. We are in the middle of raising money for the heating fund, which is one way you can still contribute. Is the Bazaar is still going on till the 9th of January. And it's all these incredible gifts that jubilants have donated. Art, music. You can get a personalized song written by the amazing Brian Claflin, or a personalized poem by John David Short, and lots of other wonderful things. So check that out, and all of that money will go to keeping people warm this winter. There will be a link on the side, so you can check that out. So we have about a week left. We had some wonderful fires last night, and thank you for everyone who participated in that. There are a few other things happening. It's clearly a lovely New Year's. And one of the things that we have worked on this past year is becoming more aware of our white privilege, of racial equity. And there is a review that you can take looking at what happened in Western North Carolina, and the link is over in this side. And there's also a way to really commit for 2021 to your values of equity and justice. And that link's over on the side as well. That's with the YWCA of Asheville. The next sort of workshop we have coming up is the one on honoring your life and your loved ones by preparing for your death. So we'll prepare both internally and externally for our own death, and you can help loved ones know what to do, guide your own process, reduce worry, and allow people to devote our attention when it's time to the mystery and magic of the dying process. So this is a 2-day workshop, 5th, and you can sign up in the link as well. All of this is in our newsletter as well. And one really important last thing is the pledge drive. 2021 is starting to wrap up. So we are committing to a courageous community of love. And so if you want to commit to this place called Jubilee to make sure that it thrives into the new year, please go to the website, and there is a pledge button, and you can make your pledge for the year to come. You can also simply donate. You can fulfill your pledge through that link. You can just donate as you would in our celebrations as the bowls are going around. So those are just a few of the things that are happening for Jubilee this week. And that is Jubilee in action. Thanks so much.
Hey, Jackie, is that spiral walk happening at Joanna's house this afternoon?
Oh, thank you. Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we missed the Christmas Eve spiral walk because of the weather. And we're not able to get a permit that quickly for the park again. And so Joanna is having it at her house. So I will put that information in the link, and it's in the newsletter that went out as well, both for her address and the time. So if you missed Christmas Eve and want to get together, COVID safe, outdoors with masks, and walk the spiral labyrinth.
And the singers will be there at 3 o'clock to do some singing.
Okay.
If you want to do this, walk the spiral with some musical accompaniment.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
Nice. Love it. So if you know the words to this, sing out. If you don't, la la. In a world full of hate, be a light. When you do somebody wrong, make it right. Oh, don't hide in the dark. You were born to shine. In a world full of hate, be a light. Let's do that again. In a world full of hate, be a light. When you do somebody wrong, make it right. Oh, don't hide in the dark. You were born to shine. In a world full of hate, be a light. Yeah, it's hard to live in color when you see just black and white. In a world full of hate, be a light.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Well, Jubilee, happy Epiphany, but it doesn't end here. The Epiphany is just the beginning. So arise, shine, for your light has come. Arise, shine, for your hope has come. Arise, shine, for your choice has come. And arise, shine, for your yes has come. Go in peace, go in joy, go in love. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Sing out, everybody. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. I didn't hear enough voices there. Oh, it's just me. I mean, it's okay, but not as good as when I can hear everybody in our grand, glorious cacophony of chaos. We just open this up and unmute yourself if you give yourself if you have that available. There we go. Glory. In excelsis Deo. One more time, because we can. In excelsis Deo. In excelsis Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
It's fine. Oh gosh.